Finish up because like supposed to do for the prep work. Yeah, if that's the case, then I'll just talk.
Or do you want to put the message? Basically, for like 30 minutes.
Alright, lesson time. You seem pretty strict. I did like the yeah. Yeah. You know what I was there was no video. Or at least I should say I will. What's that? Yeah. That's why I offered to give him a high. That's not yep, sounds great. Thinking about it the right way. Thanks to
This guy brought his things.
All right, folks. It is 1:30. The program office tells me that there is electives today that start at 3:30. Is that right? Right. Yep. And so that means that we end at 3:30. You want to have time to make it to your electives, so we'll end today at 3:20. And if it looks like, for whatever reason, we're inching up to that, somebody wave to me, because I know you got places to be, and we'll make sure we'll pick it up tomorrow. Does anybody remember anything we talked about yesterday? Was that pricing? I heard pricing. It was, Evan was our note taker, was going to take care of everything for us. He's preoccupied. So, if you recall what we've been doing in the course overall, we're grounding a framework for thinking about marketing decision making. We said that the role of marketing in the business is the part of the business where the growth comes from, and the role of marketing in the business is the acquisition, the retention, and the development of profitable customers. And we said that the way that we do this is we're going to understand what it is that customers value, and then we're going to create that value for those customers through a mix of product, price, promotion, and distribution. But we don't want to just create those mixes of price, product, promotion, and place in a vacuum. We want to do it purposefully and thoughtfully so that we can have a benefit for the business, hopefully a long-term sustainable advantage for the business that allows us to grow. And so we said before we just make the decisions on the product features that we like, and the prices that we like, and the kind of advertising that we like, and promotions that we like, and then distribution decisions that we like on our own, let's be thoughtful and understand and answer questions about the company, about the consumers, about the context, about the competition, and about our collaborators. And then from there, recognize that not all consumers are the same, and recognize that we can segment the market, so we can try carving up the market by who those customers are, what those customers are doing, why the customers are doing what it is that they're doing. And then from those segments, we're going to choose which of the potential segments are the ones that we think are going to be beneficial to provide growth for our companies. And so that's the process of targeting. And then from there, we're going to think for that particular target audience, what are the key benefits that we're offering? How is it different from the competition? And why are we the ones to be able to provide that? And that allows us, once we've thought about that positioning, to then make better decisions about the product, about the price, about the promotion, and about distribution. And we spent time yesterday really digging into this part about extracting the value for the business. And we looked at a couple of different pricing problems to help us think about how do we go about pricing in order to bring the most profit into the business, if indeed that's what the goal is in the short term. And we talked about notions of estimating what a demand curve looks like. And we did that. We did a survey. We gathered the data that we had in terms of everyone's willingness to pay for a cruise. And we were able to use that to look at how we would sell different numbers of units at different prices. And so we had this downward sloping demand curve. We saw how that downward sloping demand curve, depending on the costs that we have in order to produce those products, influences this curvilinear shape, which is our profit curve. And what we're trying to do is find a spot at the top of the profit curve that allows us to bring in as much profit as we possibly can, recognizing then that a price that's too low might mean that we're leaving money on the table because our margins are small, despite that we're selling a lot of product. And a price that's too high might mean that we're also leaving money on the table because although our margins are larger, the number of units that we sell is smaller. And so we're trying to balance those, and that's the reason why we have that curvilinear profit curve. And we talked about how when we choose a price that's going to generate the most possible profit for the company, we recognize that there are those people who would have purchased at higher prices, and that means that they're getting surplus that the company could otherwise have obtained had they charged a higher price. But if we had charged a higher price, that would have meant that fewer and fewer people would have purchased. So we're choosing that one price, but essentially we're ceding some of that surplus to the consumers. And on the other side, there are probably plenty of people who would have purchased the product at a lower price. The company could have made a profit by selling at a lower price to those individuals, but had they set that lower price, then everybody would have been able to get that lower price. And so there would have been more money that would have been lost for the business. So we can think about those sales that didn't happen also as a loss of opportunity for the business. And so then we said, well, what if instead of just charging one price, maybe there are ways that we can charge multiple prices in the market, and we looked at one mechanism of price discrimination. Those people who are willing to wait to the very last minute, if those people are more price sensitive, then we can charge a higher initial price and then lower the price later to be able to generate more profit. And so we looked at a couple of examples in how we could go about doing that. And then we also talked about how when we set our prices, we should not only be thinking about setting our prices to be as profitable as possible for each product individually, but we looked at a number of cases where we had substitute products, the gasoline problem, or complementary products where we had the ink printer and the ink itself, recognizing that the sales of one influence the sales of the other. We saw how if we set our prices simultaneously for the ink and the printer and for both types of gasoline, we can generate more profit overall for the business. So that's sort of where we were when we were talking about our problems yesterday. And today we're going to stick with a little bit of the theme of pricing, but we're going to talk about pricing as it relates to promotion. We're going to work through a couple of fun puzzles today. And they're geeky, like really geeky. Like if you're geeky, you like numbers and math and stuff, then you're gonna have a good time today. If not, you're still gonna have a good time today. Just a tougher good time is what you're gonna have. Okay, so let me tell you about the problem once again. Here we are. So let me just tell you my Hershey's chocolate bars, thanks to your help yesterday, we are doing fabulously. In fact, we're doing so well that I need more consulting help on this. So let's imagine the scenario is this, and I'll get you working in a couple of minutes. But what I'm doing right now is I'm selling my Hershey chocolate bars and I only sell one product. I've only got this 8-ounce Hershey chocolate bar. And I sell them to retailers, and I sell them to retailers in cases of 24 bars. And the regular gross margin that I make on every bar is $2.20. And so that means that the gross margin on every case that I sell is $52.80 a case. And so I've been doing this, and I'm making money, but the question that I have today is, should I run a price promotion? That is, I'm going to, well, let me just put it this way. Let me ask you first, what is a price promotion? I heard someone say a discount, is that right? Yes, maybe some kind of discounted price, right? And what might a price promotion look like to a consumer? What are some of the ways in which I can have a price promotion?
Buy one, get one free.
Okay, I could buy 2 for 1, or buy 1, get 1 free, which is a slightly different way of describing the same thing.
Coupons, percentages off.
Some kind of percentage off, I could have a number of dollars off.
Typically, there's a time box, so you only run it for, for the summer or for like this week only.
Okay, right, and so it might not just be that I'm offering it with some kind of benefit. If you buy one, you get one free, or you get some number of dollars off, or if you buy a certain quantity, you're going to get a certain price discount. So there's a variety of ways in which I can offer that price, the pricing reduction that I'm offering, but it's also, we suggest, typically for a limited amount of time. And so why would I even want to do this if I'm already making money in my company? Why might a firm decide to run a price promotion like that?
Why do you sell a complimentary good?
Okay, right, so one possibility is it might actually help me sell something complimentary. I think we said yesterday if we put cake on sale, then it might increase the sale of ice cream. What else? Jared?
Try to gain market share by getting new customers that would otherwise buy a substitute or.
All right, so it could very well be that there are plenty of people who are buying competitors' products, and this might be a way where you can sort of think that they're going along buying a competitor's product, and then they have no reason to switch because they're happy with what they're purchasing from the competition, but now this gives them a reason, an incentive to change their behavior, maybe not forever, but we're going to try to get them to change their behavior, and then if things go right, Jared, right, I assume, things go right, they're not only going to try it, they're going to see the value in it and see that it's worth the full amount, and then in the future, hopefully they become customers. So as we sort of think about it as an acquisition strategy, it might be a way to get new customers who may be buying from the competition. We can even expand it. Maybe they don't buy in the product category at all. We want them to buy in the product category. Vinod and then Diego.
Yeah, to clear out the inventory before introduction of new model or something.
So right, so it's possible that I've got old inventory, right, that I want to move forward. I want to get that out because maybe I've got a perishable product, and I want to make sure that I make at least some profit on that perishable product, so that I don't have to dispose of it, and so I might be able to stem some of my potential losses by doing that. Now, of course, there's a bit of a trade-off there, right? Because if I do that, right, then maybe my regular customers who already would be purchasing this product at the full price, right, now maybe they're going to end up buying it at a lower price. So I want to be thinking about some of those things, and some of these themes will come up. Any other things I need to think about? We're running a promotion. Oh yeah, Jake, I'm sorry.
For seasonal items,
Yep.
there'll be big inventory before the season ends, and the item is not going to be relevant.
Okay, so again, that sort of has that element of perishability, and if I've got this potential, obviously, I've got some choices, like at the end of Halloween, right? I've got all this merchandise. I can either put it in a warehouse and bring it out like Spirit Halloween does, every year. I don't know where they put all the garbage that doesn't sell. The high quality products is Spirit Halloween doesn't sell. And maybe a lot of it they actually do just lower the price and try not to keep too much from one period to the next. So that might be another reason why I might run a promotion. Any other reasons why I might run promotions? Right, yeah,
Could it be used to infer willingness to pay?
Well, okay, that's not bad, right? So if I'm trying to develop a demand curve, right, I want to understand what the price elasticity is. If I have opportunity to change prices, sometimes have lower prices, sometimes have higher prices, and then measure how much product is sold at each period of time, I can now get an estimate about what that demand curve looks like. And so I might use it for experiment. I like this. I don't have it on my slides, but I like this. I could use it as experimental purposes to try and get an understanding about what demand looks like at different prices. Because it might be that the price that I'm charging now is too high, the discounted price might be too low, but I might be able to make some inference about where between those two is the best price in order to make the most possible profit. These are good ideas. Let me see, is anybody who's not spoken and has a thought they want to add? Okay, so now I'm going to go to Diego again.
To increase the frequency so that we keep the customers in touch all the time so that they don't lose all the traffic.
Okay, that's good. So it might very well be that the goal for the firm in trying to increase sales is I might not be changing the number of customers that I have, but somebody might come and purchase this chocolate bar. Maybe I've got someone who buys them every week, and if I run a price promotion, maybe they're gonna purchase the fifth one that they would not have otherwise purchased. And as long as that's profitable, then that might be more profit for the firm. Diego, we're gonna
Yeah, optimize the average order value either by revenue or profits, depending on what the goal is.
So maybe for the I'm trying to get higher averages for those customers, right? And that's another way. So it's sort of another way of thinking. We'll just turn around what Vinod said. Is that one is I'm going to try to increase the frequency of purchase of those customers, but that will also then increase the total average that they purchase in a period of time. And in a way, we're shifting those customers. Remember, we talked about recency, frequency, monetary value. That's changing the recency of their purchases. Maybe it's changing the frequency, and then those customers then become more valuable to me. So there's a variety of reasons why I might run price promotions. So I've got a few of them over here. It might be, if I start to think about it, remember, acquiring, retaining, developing profitable customers, I might look at my existing customers and say, what are some things that I want to do? So maybe I can increase the quantity that they purchase, or maybe it changes the purchase timing. So you often see, it's sort of surprising in a way, that the retailers, before the holiday season, put their products on sale, right? So you've got, before Thanksgiving, before Christmas, there's these big sales. It seems strange though, doesn't it, that retailers would put the product on sale before Christmas when demand is likely to be higher? Right? That's when people are going to be buying gifts in the first place. Why are they putting stuff on sale when demand is likely to be higher? Yeah.
So because everybody's doing, they want to compete, everybody's competing against each other for that Christmas.
So they know, right, exactly. So I know that all of these customers are wallets ready to spend money. This is an opportunity in order to get a share of that money. And so maybe if I put these things on sale, I'll be able to get the share from the entire pie. Target's trying to get some from Walmart, Walmart's trying to get some from Kohl's, and they're each trying to get the market share from one another. And then it's not that everything is on sale, so this sort of goes back to it might be likely to then increase purchases of other products as well, so it gets them into the store to purchase those products. So it might change the timing that you purchase. I'm going to get in and start shopping earlier for Christmas gifts. 1 second, Ruby, but I got you on the queue. I might start shopping earlier for Christmas gifts, and I might be more likely to shop at whatever the particular store is or retailer. Ruby, what do you want to add?
I was going to make an assumption that typically, especially for retailers, they assume that they were going to get a certain amount of volume, so they would order a certain amount of volume. And normally what I've seen is they would put a discount much further when they're anticipating that it's a slower uptake of the sales that they're.
So that would be then yet another reason. That's more that, so early on, I might put things on sale to try and get people to start shopping earlier, to come into the store, to be able to see what some of the other products are. It's very likely that when consumers start shopping for Christmas gifts, you know how you always sort of go back out, you might buy something else, you might buy something else. If you can get people started to shop earlier in the season, then they might, by the end of the holiday season, they might have a lot more gifts than if they waited to the very last minute. So that's one end of it, and then as you're suggesting, there's another end that it might be, as we start to see that our demand was not what it was that we expected, now we're going to get back to clearing out some of this excess inventory. And so what it might do also for my existing customers is I'm afraid that they're going to go to the competition, right? And so maybe periodically, as a way to retain and develop them, I'm gonna give them some kind of a discount so that they're happier with my products, they've got greater likelihood of purchasing my product and not trying the competitor's product. And we can also sort of think about that as increasing the share of wallet. So it might be that I generally choose from either of these two brands and I switch back and forth, and if periodically there's a price promotion on one of them, then I might choose a higher percentage of one brand than another. Sure.
For people that live in this, and maybe like you, Diego, do you guys monitor
Every
your
week.
competition's prices? Like, oh shit, they went on sale, we weren't expecting that, we
Yeah.
need to go on sale right
Yeah.
now, just to
All the time.
match sales?
Also the promo depth as well. The promo structure, like but BX get Y or X% off or gift card, but also the depth. Yeah.
So knowing how, by depth, you say the amount of promotion.
X%, yeah.
Right, that's right, and so that would be more to, I want to keep my existing customers, or if you're trying to acquire new customers, then you want to make sure that whatever it is that you offer is going to be superior to what it is that the competition is offering. And so we can also think about this, I'm down here on influencing new customers, I might use it as a way to influence trial, to get new customers in the door, and then once they've tried the product and they see the value that it has, and then we hope they're going to come back and purchase it at the full price, or maybe it's bringing them into the product category. As we mentioned, it could increase the sale of the complements. It might affect some spillover effects on the attitude toward the brand. Hey, these are great guys just because they offer the product on sale. So, sometimes you see customer appreciation day and they're just offering you, a bunch of different things at lower prices. And part of that is to just to build goodwill, and so people have more positive attitudes toward the brand. And we can also use it as a mechanism for price discrimination, because there are some people who are not that price sensitive. They go to the store, they buy as much chocolate as they want to buy. There are others who might be more price sensitive. And how do we discriminate between the more and less price sensitive customers? It's the more price sensitive customers who are also more willing to put in the time and the effort to search for the discounts. So if anybody has ever used like one of those online coupon and promo code finders like Retail Me Not, which is a big in Austin, and some of these other ones, why is it that not everybody gets the low price initially? It's because they didn't go to Retail Me Not to find it. But simply by going there, those customers have identified themselves as being price sensitive, so they have to put a little extra effort, a little extra step. People who are less price sensitive don't want to go to do that. That allows me to effectively charge different prices. And you saw yesterday how we can charge different prices in the marketplace for effectively the same products. We come up with a mechanism to discriminate, and we can get more potential profit in the marketplace. So those are consumer price promotions. I also want to point out that there are other types of promotions that are more in the line of business to business for the purpose of influencing the trade. So it could very well be that the manufacturer wants to influence the retailer, or a distributor wants to influence a wholesaler in order to carry more product, in order to push more product. And so I can also spend promotional dollars there. We typically call those trade promotions, and that might be things like discounts and rebates to the retailers. So years ago, when I worked for a major paper company, we wanted our big paper distributors to carry our product and sell that product through to the restaurants. Our customers included like In-N-Out Burger and Whataburger, and we also sold paper plates and paper towels to hotels and universities. And we wanted them to be pushing our products. So what we would do is we would offer them a rebate. And we'd say, you will get price X, but if what you do in this month is you sell X amount of products, you show us the receipts, and we will give you a discount after that. And so that's the way we can influence their pushing our products through the supply chain. And that's part of what we call trade promotions. We also use things like cooperative advertising. So when you go into like a Walgreens or a Target or an H-E-B, and they've got a circular that you can look at that has advertisements for branded products, it's often the case that the retailer and the manufacturer have come together, and they've each chipped in some money to help pay for this thing to happen. And that way, I can get HEB to sponsor my, whatever product it is that I'm selling, I'll pay some of it to run that advertising. And I might even spend my money on sales support. So again, my example when I was working at the paper company is that we would take our salespeople and we would put them at the distributor for a period of the time. And that salesperson would cost us money, but they would ride along with their salespeople. And then what would happen is that they would help sell the product through to the ultimate consumers of the product. So that's another way in which we will see these trade promotions. And that also includes like the point of purchase displays, the buckets that have all the colorful things on them that you might see at the end caps of the stores and all those kind of fun-looking displays. That's often paid for by the manufacturer, and that helps push the product through the channel. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because it's going to be important for the problem, and it also is something that really happens in the marketplace. So here's what I've been doing in the past as we get to today's problem. I run consumer promotions, and what I've always done is I've offered them as $1 off the purchase of one bar. So it's a coupon that you can bring to the store to get $1 off the bar, and we send them out by mail. And on average, 10% of the coupons that are distributed ended up being redeemed. And when I run this promotion, I've got printing and distribution costs that I have to pay. So first I have to print them, then I gotta mail them out. And that cost me about $20 per 1,000 coupons. And then the consumer shows up at the store, says, I have a coupon, I want to use this coupon. And the store says, well, what is this? And the customer says, it says it's $1 off for the purchase of a chocolate bar. And the retailer says, well, I would rather just have $1. I don't want this piece of paper that just says $1 off. The consumer says, well, that's not right. I should get $1 off because it says $1 off. And so as the manufacturer, I go to the retailer, I say, just take it and I'll give you the $1 back. And the retailer says, no, because that's effort for me. And I say, how about if I give you an extra 10 cents? And then the retailer says, yes, I'll do exactly that for you because I like the extra 10 cents and it helps move product through my channel. And so there's often a processing cost, and let's just say that that processing cost is 10 cents per redeemed coupon. So that tells me something about the costs of running this promotion. So it is now, for the sake of our discussion today, it is the end of December 2024. And in 2025, I've already got some decisions made. And so this is really all about, we're going into January of 2025, and I've already decided the trade promotions from last year is the exact amount of money I'm going to spend this year. So I don't need your help on trade promotions. The question that I have is, should I or should I not spend the money to run a consumer promotion where I send out these coupons for $1 off? Maybe it's not worth doing at all. And so there's sort of a go, no-go decision that I have. If it's yes, the plan is to distribute 8 million coupons with a face value of $1 each in the month of January. And so that's the real question is, should I or should I not send out 8 million coupons with $1 face value in the month of January? So let me show you a little bit about the data, and you can go to Canvas, and if you go to session 6, you will see that there's a worksheet there. And for you, it looks like this. If I go to modules, under session 6, it's Gershie Price Promotion Student Workbook. And I will show you what that workbook looks like, just so you can see. You have initially, you've got a document that explains everything that I just explained. It tells you all about your costs. And you also have some data. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the data, and then we'll get working on the problem. So the data is from, the data is from the last number of years. It goes back to January of 2021. It goes up to December of 2024, and we're trying to make a decision now for January of 2025. And what I have in column C here is my sales in cases. This is the number of cases that I sold in each one of these months. I also have in column D something called consumer promotion. It has a dollar sign in front of it. It represents the number of coupons that were redeemed. It does not include any processing and printing costs. So another way to think about this is where in January of 2021 it says 361,214. That means in January of 2021 there were 361,214 coupons redeemed. And then I also have the number of dollars that I spent in that month on trade promotion. And so that's the data that I have. And so I'm just trying to decide whether or not I should run that consumer promotion or not as I get into the month of January of 2024. Does that make sense? Okay, so the first question that I have that you might want to think about, which seems like an easy question but has a little bit of trickiness to it. What do I need in order to break even in doing this? And then the second question is the broader question, and that question gets to, where am I? The second question gets to, then using the data, how will that consumer promotion impact profits if I run it in January? And what factors might I use to predict what my sales are going to be? And then, should I run that promotion or not? So what I'm going to ask you to do is, with a buddy, or a couple of buddies, or if you're the kind of person who doesn't like to communicate with others at all, you can work on it on your own. But see how you do, or just ask somebody else. But let's spend 10 minutes or so thinking about the break-even part of the problem. And then we'll break and we'll talk a little bit about the break-even part of the problem, and we'll dig in a little bit further. And then after that, we're going to get to the part of the problem where we're going to say, should we run the promotion or not? Another way to think about it is to say, well, are we actually going to break even? Are we going to make money? Or are we not? So, yeah. Oh, the PowerPoint is not. And I'll get it.
I'm not doing so well.
You're good.
I can't, that's all right.
I was like, is there a lot of math for you guys?
Just some basics. So for the break-even part, you really don't need the data in the data set. It's all in the document.
We don't think so. We need to give you, are you asking for the theory of how to break even, or you asking for the plan?
Start with the theory, and if you get through that, that's good. And then give you a number that way.
Right, so
Are they some of them by case?
There are some by the T20 is the first product. Per bar, $2.20 on each bar. And then what's in the data set are cases, 24 bars. So on every one of those cases, I know $2 a year.
We got the sales in cases.
Sales and
We could take what the profit is in those cases and subtract the sales.
Every day.
Yeah, actually, it turns out that number of cases. Much of the work is done, much is done.
Oh, yeah, it's the chair left there.
సరే ఇట్లా 8 million. No, ఇప్పుడు so January 2024 same as January 2022.
Well, it's $20,000. Yeah, good question. That's what we gotta figure out. Ultimately, that's the crux. Good question.
What's the math on that? On the
If anybody wants a hint, just wants to give me an answer. I give up. Correct. So. Because it'll sort of be determined by some of the assumptions.
800,000 So that is the revenue. But what is the promotion? Number. So you are that's no, I'm not assuming.
Right, but this is what happened.
That's the number we need, right? And then of that, there's a processing fee of those coupons.
You're not totally wrong, you're on a good track. But I'm about to spend, for me, the consumer function service, I'm about to spend some money.
Wouldn't it be subtracted?
I wanna get the money back. What has to happen to me?
I got it, Jim. It's an addition.
Number one, what has to happen? I mean, that would be the break even. So let's say that I spend
How many cases?
that means that I need to bring in plus 1 cent. How much did I, how much? What has to happen by running this?
I don't say anything much.
That's the break even. You wanna spend what? 800,000. But you actually, your question is still.
They're trying to figure out how the quantity per box is and that. Some red cases, yeah.
So we got 161. We got 80,000.
Okay.
Because it says on the.
Club over here.
Next year, they're like, how many?
Try to break it down in Marty's house so I can follow. Yeah, so we know we got a cost of coupon, right? And then there's an additional fee for all the notes. We know we're just trying to get, but only of that 8 million, only 10% are going to be redeemed. We know that there's 44 bars in our case, and each case is running $30.
Oh, that's.
All these coupons with it. It's going to be
I love that. That's it, when you get second one.
yeah, so that's divide that by half. So it's 19,000.
Bars or cases do we sell?
Oh, how many cases do we need to sell now?
So you have the total cost,
Right,
you need to
right.
divide it by the
Yeah.
quantity to get your quantity.
$50.80 per.
Yeah, we just divided by.
There's a bit of a twist that I'm throw in.
Oh, all I did?
20 a bar. This is blah, blah, blah.
All I did was calculate the fixed cost.
Sarah, you get it?
That's the number.
That was just 8 million copies. Cost $20 per gallon to print.
Wait.
You have the right copy.
Profit cost $20 per thousand.
Yeah, so in your bank, now it's.
I guess that's what that how many do you see? $8 million that go out, that's about and then you do the processing calculation on the 80,000.
Yeah, how many is that?
See how give you the total cost. And then you divide that by what the cost of what it is.
I don't know if I'm right, I got 72 bars.
Yeah, well, the average.
Yeah, it actually does, because it is.
What was your cost?
I think that is part of the variable cost.
normally when I sell.
We don't have any sales. I can multiply that by number to get to
Okay, let's just, in the good interest of time, let's take a look at the break-even part. So, what do I need to happen in order to break even?
Your cost, your revenue to equals your cost.
Okay, my revenue, so I'm gonna spend some money on this program, and I wanna get that money back, right? And because if I earn less than the amount of money that I spend on the program, right away it seems like it's not a good plan to do. So I wanna figure out what this program costs. So that's sort of the first thing. So I'll look at my program costs here. Let's go up here. Is this easier to see than yesterday?
No, that was. Oh, yes.
You didn't,
It's just a double check. Light blue or green. That's good.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah.
alright, I got 6,000.
Okay, so here are my costs for this program. I got printing and distribution costs. Let's see if I can make the lights.
8.8.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. Printing and distribution costs of $20 on 8 million coupons that I'm gonna print up per thousand. I think that's $160,000 that I have to spend just to print everything up and mail it to people. Then what I expect is of those 8 million coupons, 10% are redeemed, so there'll be 800,000 redeemed. I have to give 10 cents to the retailer for every redeemed coupon, so that's $80,000 that the retailer gets. And then I lose $1 on every bar that I sell because it's $1 that the retailer gives to the customer effectively, and I have to turn around and give $1 back to the retailer. So there'll be an $800,000 cost to me. So the entire cost of the program, as it's described, is $1,040,000. Does that make sense? Everybody's okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so now the question is, what do I need to have happen to break even? So here's a couple of ways to look at it, and this is where it gets a little dicey, but it's definitely worth thinking about. So the normal margin per bar that I make is $2.20. And another way to think about it is the margin that I make on a bar that's sold with a coupon is $1.10, because I have to pay $1 to the retailer for the face value plus another 10 cents for processing. So the margin that I get is only $1.10 on a coupon bar. So the cost of printing is $160,000. So the number of units, the number of bars that I need in order to break even is 145,455. So I just divided this cost of printing by the $1.10 that I make on each one of the bars that I sell. And that would mean I need to sell 145,455 bars with the coupons in order to break even. Does everybody see that as a solution?
How come you don't include processing?
Oh, because I've already now included the processing cost into this with this $1.10 per bar. Right, so it's already absorbed in this, right? And by the way, in a second I'm going to tell you why this is wrong, so don't get too hung up on this.
We were right. Wait, but how, I thought your $1.10 is including the, I guess the reimbursement to the seller.
Yeah, so the $1.10 includes the $1 less that I earn on the bar, plus another 10 cents to the retailer. So on every bar that I sell with the coupon, I make $1.10. On every bar that I sell without the coupon, I make $2.20. And so if I spent $160,000 printing and sending out coupons, and only 145,455 coupons showed up at the store and bought candy bars from which I got a $1.10 margin on each one, then that would equal the $160,000 that I spent on printing, and I would be even Steven. I would break even on that program. Another way to think about that is it would mean I need 6,000 cases, because I just took this and divided by 24, 6,000 cases. However what? Brandon, however what? Jeffrey, however what? We just talked about this. You did it. Jack.
Oh, you could be cannibalizing your existing sales?
Could be. So let's imagine that these are candy bars that I would have sold anyway. These are people who I would have bought at $2.20, and now I've effectively lowered the price for them. I've lost $1.10 on every bar I sold instead of gained $1.10. So let me take another way to think about this problem. So I'm going to slide over here. Look, I got that. Slide. That's right. 2 steps. There you go. Okay, so let's look at this. What if every sale is incremental? So the total sales with the coupon, 800,000. Let's imagine every single person that used the coupon never purchased from me before and has decided, because they saw the coupon, they're going to come in and they're going to buy from me. Or you could also imagine, if you don't like that, there are families out there, they buy 4 chocolate bars every month, and because they got the coupon, they decided to buy a 5th chocolate bar this month. There's a variety of ways that these sales can be incremental. I didn't expect them to happen, and now they're happening. And so here we go, 800,000 coupons, I make $1.10 on each, so that's $880,000. Then I just subtract the cost of the printing and distribution, and I will make a profit of $720,000 if every single coupon is incremental. Does that make sense? So if all of my 800,000 coupons that are redeemed are new sales that would not have happened otherwise, I will make $720,000. Okay. But what about the second scenario? What if none of the sales are incremental? What if every single coupon that is redeemed is a regular customer who would have purchased, and now as a result of getting advantage of this coupon, they're buying it at the lower price? I'm just subsidizing them. I'm just giving it to them for a lower price. If anybody here have salespeople that they have to work with, manage salespeople, and the salespeople always want you to lower the price, don't they? Right? They want you to lower the price so that they can make the sale. And what is that? The customer might have bought anyway. If we give it to them at a lower price, they're going to be happy about it, but it's just going to be a loss to the company. We want to use those discounted prices strategically in order to get incremental sales that we wouldn't otherwise get. And so if that is the case, if all of the sales are not incremental, then the total cost to the firm is going to be $1,040,000. I lose the money in printing and distribution. I lose $1 on every bar that I sell. I lose another 10 cents on every bar that I have to pay that processing fee for. And so the question isn't how many bars do I need to sell in order to break even. What I need to know is what percentage of them need to be incremental in order to break even. If 100% are incremental, I clearly make money. If 100% are cannibalizing, I clearly lose money. And so I want to think about a place where it balances out. What percentage of them need to be incremental? And there's a couple of ways to do this. One is to think about, well, at least the first 145,000 out of the 800 redeemed coupons have to be incremental sales to pay for the cost of the printing and the distribution. Does that make sense? I have to at least have that many to cover the cost of the printing and distribution. And then of all of the remaining ones, after those first 145,000, The remaining sales that are out there are either gonna earn me $1.10 if it's an incremental sale, or lose me $1.10 if it is a cannibalizing or non-incremental sale. And so what I need is for an even amount of the remaining sales after those first 145,000 to be equal to one another, and at that point I will break even. And so a way that I can think about that is, assume that 800,000 coupons are redeemed. I need 145,454 to cover the cost of printing. What remains is 600, here we go, what remains is 654,000 coupons that either are gonna be money makers or money losers. And since it's $1.10 if it's a money maker, and a loss of $1.10 if it's a money loser, if I just split those two in half, then the total number of coupons that have to be redeemed that are incremental, sales that would not have otherwise happened, is 472,727. If that many are the ones that are earning me money, and there's 327,273 that are losing me money, then I will still end up breaking even, and that would be at about a 59% incremental rate. Or, put another way, here's another way I can solve this. I can calculate if 100% of the sales are incremental, these are value to me that I'm going to make money. On average, it means that I actually only make 90 cents per bar because I have to take into account the cost of printing. And on the non-incremental sales, I actually lose $1.30 per bar, again, because I have to take into account the printing. And so what I need is to solve for the proportion. 90 cents times what proportion, plus a loss of $1.30 times the complement of that proportion equals 0, and I can calculate that using a little algebra at 59%. And so, just as a check on this, if the new sales, incremental sales are 472,000, sales that would have occurred anyway are the cannibalizing sales 327,000, that means the revenue from the new sales, $520,000. From the lost sales, I lose 360,000 on these 327. The difference is 160, less the cost of printing, and that's where I break even. Again, if you want to do that in cases, 13,636 cases. Does that make sense? Conceptually? Okay, so now, the question. Are incremental sales from coupons the only sales that are really incremental?
No.
No. How else can sales come about?
New people just came in and bought them.
Like 2 bars,
Could just be new people coming in, buy else? What did you say?
but then you could have buy 2 bars, but only have 1 coupon.
We have 2 bars. Anybody here have children?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Does anybody imagine, depends on how old your children are, but I remember when my children were 9 and 11, and if I had a coupon for 1 chocolate bar and I bought 1 chocolate bar with 1 coupon, why not?
Well, each one gets half a bar.
Yeah, well, each one not in my family. Right, so what does that do? That means that I bought 1 with a coupon, and then I have to turn around and I gotta buy another one at the full price, right? Or potentially what happens is, I bought 1 with a coupon, and then if the plan went the way that I wanted it to, that customer may have tried the product, right? And then they might like it, and then they might come back and they might buy more. It might be that there was a customer that normally bought 2 bars in a month, and then they would switch to the competitor, Diego, right? But they used the coupon to buy the 3rd one, and they said, you know what? Gershie's has been okay to me. My 4th one is also going to be from Gershie's, and so they buy another one from the Gershie's. And in fact, when we think about the impact of promotions, we can often think about it as sort of functioning this way. So I've got baseline sales that are selling at the regular price. So here's my sales, this is the month that I'm gonna run the promotion, and I've got the sales in the month before, and the month before that, and the month before that. And then we sort of think about, we ran the promotion, and then this green bar up here is the incremental units. These are the extra sales that happen as a result of running the promotion, and then maybe it goes back to whatever the baseline sales are. But in reality, it is not just these two possible buckets. We can instead think about it as 4 possible buckets. So when I run the promotion, I've got my baseline sales, and then there is that green box. The green box is incremental sales. This is sales that would not have occurred that did occur because I ran a promotion. Then this orange box are the base units I would have sold, but I'm making less money because they were sold on deal. These are people who would have purchased at a higher price, but got away with buying it for less because I happened to send them a coupon. And then there may even be incremental sales on top of that that happen simply because I'm running the promotion. So it might be that someone comes in and uses the coupon and they buy extra for their family. It might be that somebody comes in and uses the coupon at time 1, and they come back later in the month and they buy another one because they've changed their opinion and they value the product more. So for any of those reasons, I might get those incremental sales. And then I'm also going to point out that I might even see a change in something that happens to the next month. And why would that be?
New customers.
Yeah, hopefully, when I ran the promotion, if part of my plan was to acquire new customers, maybe it's going to change what the sales are in the subsequent month. Maybe I actually get more new customers paying at the full price when I look forward. So it's difficult to determine who falls into which bucket in many cases. Now, there are online methods where I might actually know who really received the coupon, what would they have purchased in the past, and I can model it down to the individual level. A lot of times I can't do that, but I can use the data that I have here to try to model what's really going on. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at my raw data.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What happens if the customer thinks, oh, I'm just gonna wait for the promotion again. It's candy bar, but I'm just expanding to a bigger product. I'm used to this now. I saw a promotion. I'm gonna wait for this product. It is not a necessity, this product.
So what you're saying is,
Training the customers.
I might actually then, what would that do?
Yeah.
If I go back to this chart here, I drew this chart where the incremental sales had increased in the subsequent month. But what you're saying is it could be the opposite, couldn't it?
Right. There might be customers who bought a discount here, found a pattern that, oh, I like this. I might just wait.
I'm just gonna wait for it to be on discount. So there are 2 possibilities. One is the incremental sales wouldn't change. My regular customers would go back to being regular customers, and then the next time I run it, they would be these green box customers again. So I could still make profit from them. That would be effectively this price sensitive customers. If they were my existing customers who have started to learn that it's available on sale periodically and start reading, then that would suggest that my sales in T+1 might actually decrease as a result of having run this promotion. I like this. I like this possibility. Not that I'm happy about it for my company, but I like that we're thinking about it. John?
You could also pull sales forward from that month. So you're pulling sales into the earlier month that somebody's going to buy in the next month anyway. So if you're planning on buying 4 candy bars in July, there's a promotion in June. You might buy those 4 candy bars on sale.
And so it could actually be that my sales, so I drew this box is increasing here, and you're saying, wait a minute, it could actually be the other way, as some of these sales that were my baseline sales now become potentially incremental sales, but incremental at only $1.10 instead of selling them at $2.20. I think we're gonna have to consider that as we solve this problem. That seems like a really good thing to be concerned about. So actually, let's take a look at the data now and see what's going on with this data as we start to think about how do we determine, is it likely that we're going to be successful or not in running this promotion? So I'm going to take a look at the data. I like to look at it. So I'm going to insert a chart here. What do you recommend? Excel? Choose an Excel recommended chart, why not? So here is the data that looks at the sales in cases over the period of time that we have. The axis here tells me number of sales in cases, and then we've got it in time here. This goes back to the period from January 2021 all the way until December of 2024. What do you see?
It's like all the spikes in emotion. It's spiky at certain events.
It's not super smooth, it's kind of spiky.
The average is going up.
It's like the average is going up. Let's take a look at that average going up. Is it really? I don't know, it looks kind of flat. Let's take a look. I'm going to add a trend line here just so we can look. Right? And if you look here at the beginning of time, it would suggest that the estimate should be about 350,000 cases. As we get to the end of time, it suggests that the estimate is about 400,000 cases, and that's 48 months worth of data. So it looks like with every month that has gone by, on average, I have added another 1,000 cases. So as I try to make an estimate for January of 2025, I should expect to sell 1,000 more cases than I sold the month before, and I should expect to sell about 50,000 more cases than at the beginning of time. Tell me more about the spikiness. What's going on with the spikiness?
Get seasonal events affect sales.
Yeah, it looks like it's kind of seasonal. And so there's certain months when sales are up and certain months when sales are down. So if I'm going to try to estimate the impact of the promotion, I don't want to misattribute the impact of the consumer promotion to other things that might be going on. It could just be that there are certain months that customers tend to buy a lot of product and other months that they don't. It could just be that over time customers are buying more product, and I want to make sure that I attribute things to the right variance that's in the model. And so this has seasonality, not winter, spring, summer, fall seasonality, but seasonality in that there's a regular period of events, and it appears that it is by month. There are some months that are high. Here's a January. Here's another January. What's this one here? This is a September. It looks like September's and January's are pretty high. There's a March is kind of high, and then there's other months that are high. So it does look as though in any model that we build, we're going to want to account for the fact that the data are increasing through time. We're going to want to account for the fact that there's some seasonality, that on some months sales are higher and other months sales are lower. And then let's take a look. I'm going to do one more thing. Let's get the sales in cases and the consumer promotion. Oops, sorry. I think this will work. Come on, Excel. Insert. In this chart here, the same data that we were looking at before. Let's put a secondary axis in so it's easier to look at. Okay, so the blue line again is the sales in cases, exact same thing as we just looked at. Now I've added the red line is the amount of coupons that were redeemed. That's the consumer promotion. What do you see? They seem like visually it appears as though they are, as you say, correlated, right? So that they move together. Not perfectly though, right? right? But it at least appears as though months where we spent a lot of money on consumer promotion, there was also a lot of sales. And Nanda, now, what is it that you want to tell me?
I forgot.
There you go.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Like, just because the person who bought in the first sale there
Yeah.
could have bought next month, but they didn't. Maybe that's the same person who waited for the next promotion to happen. So there's like the spike happened where January 22nd, maybe the same person bought again on September 22nd and not on May 22nd.
Right, and in fact, if I may expand, this is what I just heard Nanda say, is Nanda only a few moments ago said, it is possible that when we put the product on sale, people are purchasing a greater quantity. But then what happens in the next month is my sales are diminished because all that's happened is that people are purchasing more in this month than they would have otherwise purchased, and they're just taking sales from the next month. And there's a variety of reasons why that could happen. And first of all, is there evidence of that? At least visually, it looks like here sales, the amount of consumer promotion is up, sales went up, and then following it we see this big decline. And here it's up, and following it is the big decline. Now I don't know how much decline it would have been had it not been for the consumer promotion, but we're going to try and estimate what that is. And then why is that happening? I don't know for sure, but I can give you a number of reasons why that might happen. One, consumers are buying forward and stockpiling. They're filling their pockets with chocolate, and then that allows them to eat the chocolate later on at a lower price. It could be that they are satiated. They have purchased all of the chocolate in the month of January, and now they're like, I'm never eating chocolate again. And they make it like 1 week in February, and then they start eating chocolate again. It could be, as Diego pointed out earlier, we've got competitors who are watching. But the competitors can't always react at the very next second, so they react subsequent to my action. And so whenever I put my product on sale, it's great, I sell a whole lot, but then the competitor comes in when I go back to regular price and they put their product on sale. And in fact, I'm kind of okay with that because it's worse for both of us if we're both on sale at the same time. Better be that I'm making a lot of money and that they make a lot of money, and maybe we'll sort of tacitly decide not to compete at the exact same time. And we actually sometimes do see that in the market where you'll see like you go to the supermarket this week, all the Coke products are on sale, and the next week all the Pepsi products are on sale, and they seem to go back and forth a little bit. In part they do that because it allows them to be able to take advantage of the sale price for customers without necessarily directly competing on price, and so they tacitly, they can't legally get together and collude, but what they can do is a company can signal, I'm going to put my product on sale every other month. They're legally allowed to do that, and then the other company realizes, oh, maybe what I should do is put myself on the other months, and that way we won't damage the market overall, right?
What happened in the selling cases in September when you had no promotions?
In what?
What happened in September on the sale cases when you had no promotions?
Yeah, what happened here? Which
September 24th, sorry.
Yeah, and so I didn't run much promotion there, and yet still sales and cases are hot.
We had a banner month, so.
Yeah, so it's very possible that there are things beyond my promotions that are also running this. And it could be the trade promotion was high then, or it could just be in September the entire chocolate industry explodes because people buy, I don't know, back to school chocolate.
Halloween candy.
Maybe they're buying a Halloween candy or something like that. So any model that I build, I definitely want to include the consumer promotion in there. And I also want to include Nanda's possibility that the sales in January, the coupon promotion in January, might influence what the sales are going to be in February. Does that make sense? Okay. Should we build a model? Do you want to do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right, let's do it, let's show them off. So let's get rid of the noise.
Take a quick break.
Can we take a break or?
Oh, you wanna take a quick break?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, here's the thing, I'll tell you what, it's gotta be quick, because I have to let you go at 3:20.
Okay.
So, can you come back in 5 minutes?
Yes.
Alright, come back in 5 minutes, and I'll start setting them up.
It's been like what, 15 minutes? 20 minutes?
Maybe not. But he's done it. I feel like that's, so if you will.
So like, I feel like maybe I
It's a break even point.
already like all and then I ran the career, so here's refinement.
So the total cost is.
I put that
Why you always help with even the lucky draw also you can I got 5 minutes.
We have that,
You don't really.
we have that. So really,
Total cost of those three.
I feel like we're pretty, I think we just have to consolidate and put it all.
No, he came to like, oh yeah, we say this. Ask the professor to change.
Easy stuff.
Richard's not here. You know, I'm Richard, you want this?
Let's say I this is English like
Oh, trust me, I get it.
What's that?
There was another 80.
That's the,
so is that you might
Yeah.
the way he did it was, he did, so the way he did it was he just. Subtracted the one.
I've showed them.
Sure.
So it's 160,000. Yeah, let me know if you.
Yeah, right, cause, well, only cause 160 matters, cause he took 220 and subtracted that. So we got to 110. Instead of 160 by 110, I think.
Yeah, that's how many I said, I don't know, still, what you would have. Just to cover that. Yeah, this would be like a green cell.
Yeah, the break even is on that one, the net
Only because it's a 50-50 that in the office.
I'll see what it is, I'm sure.
Also.
Oh, I know, that's so true.
Question. There was no fixed cost. There was no fixed cost. Why are you dollar tenants in these days? Because you cannibalize existing sales, people who would have paid full price.
That's not part of question one.
Right? Because there was an existing sales level. Some of your existing sales.
On question one, you don't need to factor.
What was the one, sorry.
So on question one, you don't need to factor, you have to factor that in.
Okay, so what was the answer to question one?
It was,
6,000 cases or something?
no, 19,600.
Oh, but I didn't see that up there.
Yeah, it was up there.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Well, he had the bar, he had the number of bars.
I'll post this.
The number of bars was 40.
Sorry, think about it as 59.
I had that, that's what I thought, it was like 6,000 cases or something else about it.
No, he did some calculations.
This is the whole issue with, I can't see shit.
As long as you can see the good stuff.
No, I see it when it gets posted on campus.
I only see the shit.
There's no, I mean, this is so dumb. Or just put a monitor.
would be.
Is term limited or?
I am term limited, but I'm leaving Yeah, I'm saying I'm still.
Yeah.
Future.
It's the only gluten-free one I think there's, like, other stuff over there.
Excited to move on. Deal with the public and, again. I gave it up for a decade. It's working out, I got such a.
Sometimes I go home, sometimes I stay here. It's not that bad, it's
I think it's more the traffic is kind of.
well, if you come in the morning instead of taking 35, like the difference if you take 281 and then cut over, like an extra half hour still, 40 minutes. If you have a good 35 run.
Yes.
If you have a shit 35 run, it's the same. Well, if you're coming in the morning of a weekday, you know you're gonna have a bad 35 run, so just take the other one. It's a nice and leisurely.
Yeah.
I see that.
All right, we better move so that we're gonna be able to finish. So here's my goal. I wanna be able to predict what sales would be if I run this promotion. And I need to compare it to what sales would be if I don't run the promotion. And that will tell me what the impact of the promotion is on sales. And as long as that is more than $1,040,000 that I'm spending on the promotion, it suggests that I should run it. And if it's less, then it suggests that maybe I shouldn't run it. And as Nanda has pointed out, here, as Nanda has pointed out, that it's possible that running the promotion in January can impact what the sales might be in February, and when we looked at it visually, it appeared as though it might impact it negatively. And we want to be sure that we attribute any change to the best of our ability in sales to that consumer promotion and take out the variance that might be associated with anything else, like the month of the year, or as Vinod said, the fact that maybe there's this increasing trend. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to model to the best of my ability what sales would be with the promotion versus without the promotion. What I'm going to do is I'm going to model that for January with the promotion, and then I'm going to estimate it also for February, given that I ran the promotion in January, and I'm going to take the net of those two. And then I'm going to compare that to my estimate about what would happen in January if I did not run the promotion, plus what sales would be in February had I not run the promotion in January. And I'm going to add those two together, and then I'm going to compare those two sides and say which one looks like it's going to be more profitable for the business. And so in doing that, if you recall, when we took a visual look at the data, we said it looks like there's some seasonality. That some months the sales are higher and some that they're lower. And so what I've done is I've created a dummy variable for each of the months of the year, January through November. I do not need a dummy variable for December, because if it is not the months of January through November, then it must be December and so therefore, the December variable has all zeros. I've also created a variable for trend. This is to take care of Bernard's question about every month I expect to sell another 1,000 cases or so. And then in order to deal with the fact that the consumer promotion that I spend money on in January might be affecting what sales are going to be in February, I'm going to create what I call a lag variable. Do you guys cover lag variables at all when you took stats class? Briefly? Okay, so I'll show you how to do it. It's really very, very easy. Right now, if you look at this data, if you look at this data, you can see that in January of 2021, I sold 425,000 cases, and there were 361,000 coupons redeemed in January of 2021. In February, I sold 315,000 cases, and there were 72,000 coupons redeemed. The question that I have is, does the amount of consumer promotion redeemed in January influence the sales in February? Does the amount of the consumer promotion redeemed in February influence the sales in March? Does the amount of the consumer promotion in March influence the sales in April? And so the way I'm going to capture that in the model is I'm just going to select all of the data from the consumer promotion, and I'm going to copy it, Control-C copy, and I'm just going to step it down by 1 month. So now, what I have is the consumer promotion amount. How much does the consumer promotion amount influence the sales in the month that happens? And then I've got the consumer promotion from the month before, and how much does the amount from the month before influence the sales in the current month? And that will allow me to capture the lag effect of the promotions lagged out by 1 month. And none of this should capture the possibility that amount of consumer promotion that we have in January influences sales in February. Does everybody see how I've done this? Any questions? Okay, and then I didn't visually take a look at this, but I'm going to do the same thing with the trade promotion. I'm going to copy the trade promotion values here, and I'm going to drop them down. And so I'm calling that T lag for trade lag and C lag for consumer lag. So once again, I've got my sales in cases, which will be my dependent variable. I've got my consumer promotion, which I expect to influence sales in the month that it occurs. I've got the lag of the consumer promotion, which is a way to capture the variance in the consumer promotion, and how does that affect the sales in the subsequent month. I've got the trade promotion affecting sales in the current month. I've got the lag of the trade promotion, so that is how much money did I spend last month on trade promotion, what is that doing to this month on my total sales. Then I've got variables for the seasonality, to capture variance associated with just what month of the year it is. And then I've got a variable for trend to capture the fact that just through time alone, it looks like sales are increasing. And so I'm ready to run my regression here. But I know that it's not going to work because I've got these 2 empty cells. And so I need to have some way to deal with these empty cells. So how might I deal with this empty data?
Deleted.
Right, so one is deleted, right, which is what I'm going to end up doing. Ideally, I would go back to my records, and I would find out what was, in December of 2020, what was the consumer promotion amount, and what was the trade promotion amount, but I don't have that data, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this row. And so now I'm ready to run my regression. So I'm going to say data analysis, and then regression. And then my dependent variable is what?
Sales.
Sales increases. Down through December of 2024. The independent variable, the X range, is going to be all of the data from consumer promotion all the way through my trend variable. And these two hanging values here, I don't need those, so I'm just gonna leave those out. And I'm gonna put labels. Okay, what is the first thing that I want to look at? What should I look for? Yeah, so R-squared, that's good, I like R-squared. I actually, what I really like to do is I want to look at this F statistic and the significance of this F statistic. And all I'm doing is I'm saying, can I rule out the null hypothesis that variance in the dependent variable is explained by variance in the independent variable? And sure enough I can. There must be something going on that R squared is indeed fairly high. And so that tells me that there's something in the model that's worth looking at. And then what I'm going to do is I can look at each of my coefficients. And I'm going to ask, do I really need all of these variables in the model? And so I'm going to look at the p-values associated with each one of these. And I'm going to say, are any of them greater than 0.05? That's good, that's good, that's good. And I come down here, and you can see that t-lag variable, that's the lag of the trade promotion. I can't rule out the null hypothesis that this value that I see, look at how tiny this value is. I can't say that that's any different from 0 with any strong certainty. And so I'm going to take this lag of the trade promotion out of the model because it's not adding any explanatory power that's not already explained by other variables that are in the model. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to say, well, look, here is the p-value associated with August. That's 0.058. Should I leave that in the model? Did you guys talk about using a p-value cutoff or maybe a t-stat cutoff of 2 in your stats class to say maybe we would take that variable out? I'm going to leave it in, even though it is a little bit more than 0.05, because it's really, really close, is one reason why I'm going to leave it in. And secondly is that the interpretation of the intercept right now includes the month of December, because all of these other months are how much I add to my sales, given that it's January instead of December. And here's how much I add to my estimate of sales, given that it's February instead of December. If I were to take out August, then the interpretation of the January coefficient would be, how many more sales do I expect in January relative to the average of December and August, which would be weird and hard to interpret. And so I'm just going to leave the August variable in. And then this trend variable, did not totally clear that. Okay, that's too bad. That if you recall, when we looked at that trend, we saw that increasing slope, and it looked like about 1,000 cases per month. The estimate comes out at about 689 cases, but I can't rule out the null hypothesis that that's not taken from 0, and so I'm going to pull that one out too before I do my final analysis. So I'm going to go back to my raw data, and so I don't need that trend variable, and I don't need the lag of the trade promotion, and I'm going to run this again. I'm going to say data analysis, regression. The dependent variable is sales in cases. The X range is the consumer promotion through November. And then I'm going to say OK. Quickly look at my key values. Everybody looks tiny, 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 tiny. How's August look? and this is November.
Okay, just a selection.
Stand by, let's get it right. Do all this. Yeah. There. Okay. This is what I need. And I've got, all of these p-values really, really small, tiny, 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 tiny. August is now at 0.06. I'm still gonna leave it in there. And so I'm ready to do some estimation. So I'm gonna take my coefficients, I'm gonna move them over here. Okay. So, remember what I said I was gonna do? I'm gonna estimate, what do I expect sales to be in January if I do run the promotion? What do I expect sales to be in February if I did run the promotion in January? And I'm gonna add those together for the total impact of the promotion. And then I'm gonna say, what would sales be in January if I don't run the promotion? What are sales in February if I didn't run the promotion in January? And I'm gonna add those together for the total effect of not running the promotion so that I can compare those two and see, does that give me enough sales in cases multiplied by $52.80 per case to equal more than $1,040,000, which is the cost of the program. Does that make sense, how I'm approaching this? So here we go. All right, so we're gonna call this January Yes Promo. I'm gonna include the intercept. What is the amount of the consumer promotion in January if I run the promotion? How many coupons are redeemed? 800,000 coupons, right? What is the amount of the consumer lag in January? So it's whatever it was the month before, which was the amount, if I go back to the raw data, it was the December amount, which was the 345 on the 29, so I'm gonna copy this. 45. That's this value here, so that's the amount, the number of coupons that were redeemed the month before, influencing the sales in January. That's the amount of coupons that were redeemed in December. What is the trade promotion in January of 2025? Whatever it was in January of 2024. I'm just leaving that alone, so I'm going to go back to my raw data, and I'm going to find out from January of last year, it was 32,532. So that's going to go here. Is it the month of January that I'm estimating? Sure is. Is it any of the other months? It sure isn't. And then I can just say equals this times this. Sales in cases equals the sum of these. And now, let's look at what happens in February. So I'll copy all this, it gets faster. This is February, yes, promo. So I'm going to include the intercept. What is the consumer promotion in February? I got no idea, so I'm just going to put a 0 in there. Doesn't matter. What is the lag of the consumer promotion in February, given that I ran it in January? That's the 800,000, right? So I have 800,000 coupons redeemed in January. So now the lag effect is going to be 800,000 coming from the consumer promotion that I ran the month before. The trade promotion in February is whatever I did last year, which was 23,468. Is it January? No. Is it February? Yes, it is. So So now I've got sales in cases in February. Total sales in cases equals the sum of February sales and January sales. And we can say gross profit equals this times $52.80, and it's a giant number because my company does well. And then the cost of the program, and that was equal to $1,040,000, right? Net equals the gross profit minus the cost of the program, so oops, equals this. That's what my net profit is if I do run the promotion. And now I can compare that to what happens if I don't run the promotion. So I'm just going to copy all of this, Control-C. And right next door, let's do, this is January, no promo. So that just means that the consumer promotion instead of 800,000 is equal to 0. Don't spend the money. The lag is still there. The trade promotion is still there. It's still January. And you can see right away what a difference in sales in cases. I actually do sell more cases in January as a result of running that promotion. And then in February, there's no lag effect. And so you can see again here, the sales in cases are higher if I did not run the promotion in January. And then I can look at the net effect of this. The cost of the program if I don't run it, of course, is 0. So I can look at the delta equals this minus, because this is business school, make it in courtesy. So what does that tell me?
Run the program. Run the program.
Should I run it?
Yeah.
And why?
It's more profitable.
Because it looks like it's profitable, right? It's $766,000, and how much did I spend on this program? About $1 million, right? So it's pretty good, 75 to 80% return on investment. That's pretty impressive. I like to say that for any number that we put up here, look how specific it is down to 56 cents. It makes it seem like we should definitely do it. But it's also the start of a discussion. Are there any things about this model that give you pause before you say we should do this? Yeah, we're going to go 1 and 2. Yeah.
How sure are we that 10% will be redeemed?
I like that because to me, that is the biggest assumption that we make in this model that could steer us. We're assuming that 10% of the coupons are redeemed. So what if we assumed that 5% of the coupons were redeemed? Well, we could do some sensitivity analysis. In fact, I could do it quite quickly on this, couldn't I, right? If only 5% of the coupons are redeemed, then that would be not 800,000, but 400,000, right? So I can just try another number, right? We can do some sensitivity around that. That would be 400,000. I get it? And if it were only 5%, then you could see that could be loss. Right, so now I can start to think about what is the worst possible case scenario. So instead of just assuming 10%, maybe I could say maybe on average is 10%, but how much flexibility do I have before it starts to become a problem? And so I can run a little bit of sensitivity, best case, worst case, and most likely case. Are there any other? Let's bring that back to where it was. Okay. Are there any other questions that I have? I think Jack and then Jared. Yeah.
Can you explain how you're factoring in the lag again?
Factoring in the what?
The lag, the month.
Oh, yes, yeah. So let me show you. and then I'll make a general announcement. Here is the raw data once again, okay? And what I've done is these are the values for the consumer promotion in this column D. And what they're doing when I get a coefficient is it says how many more cases should I add or subtract, depending upon that coefficient, to my estimate, depending upon what the consumer promotion is in that month. And so in the month of January, it's going to be 800,000, and I have a coefficient from my model that says for every dollar redeemed in consumer promotion, I expect to sell 0.077 cases more. Does that make sense for the consumer promotion part? Then what is the lag doing? What the lag does is it says, let's not associate the amount of money of consumer promotion in the month that it was redeemed. Let's look at the amount of money from the month before and see how that influences case sales in this month. So the fact that there was 72,000 coupons redeemed in January or February of 21 now is influencing, through this data point here, sales in March of 2021. And the amount of consumer promotion in March is influencing, through this data point here, sales in April. And so the coefficient that I get in that regression then says, although I expect for every coupon redeemed, every coupon redeemed to sell 0.007 cases more in the month that it is redeemed, I expect to sell 0.034 cases less in the next month, and that's what that second
regression analysis.
Do the regression analysis, yeah. Yeah, does that make sense to you? Okay, good. Any other questions?
I had a question,
Yeah.
and this is maybe outside of what you're trying to convey here today, but I'm just curious, especially for those that have done this, I'm assuming these are just all the explicit costs, because there's like implicit costs, like how many meetings is it gonna take the organization to suck in and execute this? And if it's like, let's say that it was like not 700 grand, but it was 100 grand, it's positive, but it's like, hey, marketing team, there's 50 other strategic things that I'd rather have you focus on than trying to make $10 on organizing and getting this promotion launched and thinking about it and stressing it. Like, how do companies think about the non-explicit costs when they do this stuff?
Yeah, so what we want to start to think about is first, we can look at the model. So Nana said, do we trust the assumptions of the model? Do we assume that the data from 2 years ago is really going to be indicative about what's happening? Because there might be things that have changed in the environment. There's new competitors that have come in. So the data aren't any good. We're getting estimates that are by using this regression, they're the ones that best fit the line, but it's possible that there's a certain circumstance that happens in this particular month where it might not be as effective. These are all questions about the model. And then once we've got an answer there, it looks like a 70% return on investment is good, but we have to ask ourselves other questions about the strategy of the business, right? And that might be, we can get a 90% return on investment by spending it on the trade promotion. Maybe we shouldn't be running these consumer promotions at all. And if you're in the operations department, and you're the one that's producing the chocolate bars, and 1 month we get an order for a huge quantity, and then the next month there's no orders, and then the next month it's a huge quantity again. That means that sometimes our factory is in full swing and sometimes it's not. And so there might be reasons why we want to make sure that we're utilizing our resources more evenly, because a program like this might be causing these swings to go back and forth. The retailers might be saying, this is so annoying. Suddenly there's all of these sales of the chocolate bars and it uses up all of our inventory. And now we got to restock that inventory later on. You're making it more difficult for your retailers, so maybe that might be a reason why we don't want to run a program like this. And somebody said we're training the consumers to look for the discount. And so, maybe what that's doing with a program like this is, instead of focusing on the features and benefits of like how tasty a chocolate bar it is, or how it gives you energy like a Snickers bar does, or it brings you the feeling of warmth and coziness of family time together, any of these things that you could feature. Instead, what we're doing is we're featuring the price of the product and communicating that that's the most important attribute to consumers. And so there might be strategic reasons why we don't want to do that as well. So I think these numbers are the starting place for the next discussion as we start to go back to the, what do we know about our company, our competition, our context, our collaborators, our consumers? How do we think about our segmenting, targeting, positioning, decide whether or not this is the best way to be able to generate? We can, it obviously worked, it probably could work, but are there better ways for a long-term sustainable advantage? So now, one more thing I want to say before we come, actually two more things I want to say. One, if you kindly read, make sure you read the rocket fuel case, it's only 5 pages, because we'll be working for that tomorrow. And then the second thing is, at the bottom of the slide, Mama and Papa are there to catch them once again. So today, if you look in just a few minutes, it's going to become available. There's a solution sheet that describes everything we did today. As we say, I might be able to repeat this. So here is a description of the problem that we did. And here it shows you the data set that we just worked with. And it talks about the costs of the program. And then it looks at the, how to graph the data and how to think about that data. How to set up the data with the dummy codes and the trend variable. How to set up the lag variables and the meaning of those lag variables. And then how to go back and interpreting the coefficients and coming to a final estimate on this. So everything is here available for you. So I will call it a day, because the program office said, give you time to switch to your next classes. I will see you tomorrow, Saturday at 1 o'clock. You got 2 or 3 cool problems to look at tomorrow. Where's
Like mine just says like, get it, you know, focus on this. Okay.
But he usually, if you want to use like a watch, yeah, you say something. Not this one? Oh, okay. I think it's yeah. Negotiations 5.402. Oh, yeah. I think we. Private equity is 5.408. Then entrepreneurial is 3.414. We look at it.
See it Tuesday, or are you able to run this Tuesday?
Oh, the online?
Yeah.
No, I've got to. That's not.
Short run negotiation is to get new sales, even if we didn't get profit, because new sales are incremental.
You're done with the.
And you can't control your stock food rates on the mother, father, I'm already buying for 3 months, I'm already buying your brand.
Good or bad, I don't know.
Sale.
Could be helpful.
I'm buying your products right now, put it on the shelf in my house. That's a problem.
We've been debating that a little bit, like how we condition them. I don't know if you know Publix.
Yeah.
And Southeast, they've conditioned all their customers to know that BOGOs are happening. So we have to do a BOGO every quarter.
So,
But those BOGOs are so expensive, but it drives so much incrementality. So we know at least in theory, we can get new customers.
right, and that might be okay to do it for short periods of time, because the non-price sensitive customers continue to buy all the time. And it's those price sensitive ones that are waiting for that BOGO to happen, so that you capture those, maybe lose a little of the other customers.
And I think some in baby food,
Uh-huh.
babies get older, but they stop.
And then they stop,
We
losing
know,
those customers.
right, we know there's a churn on the back end no matter what, so the likelihood of those driving truly new families is higher. Because the existing customers may have already driven.
All right. Interesting problem. All right, well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I can see you.
Do you have an elective in here, or just, you haven't moved on yet?
You're my only class this
Oh, okay.
that's partly why I've been late last 2 days, because I'm driving in from Kyle, which is insane with the
Oh,
traffic.
You never know what it's gonna be.
Hard to get, there was a wreck and, anyway. No, I'm
Well,
taking
today
this
was,
to the
today
legal
was
department.
fully recorded,
Yes,
so that should be available for
So I considered not coming, but I wanted to come in. But hopefully they don't kick me out, because I sit here and work for a second.
See you tomorrow then.